Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Tech Bites. We are live from KubeCon, and you know what? I'm joined with some people, some very special people today, Michael, Cade, and Julia. They're actually at KubeCon right now. Unfortunately, I'm still stuck here in Columbus, Ohio, but they are coming from us from London. And Michael, let's start with you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, all good. I can't be on the show floor because of the internet. So Julia's taking up all the internet over there. But hopefully I can give some insight into what's going on or what's happened already and what's been announced and what are some of the trends that we've been chatting about this week.
Awesome. Julia, how are you? How's the show floor looking?
I'm good. I'm good. A little bit tired already because the week has been long. We started on Monday. There was a maintainer summit. Tuesday co-located, and then KubeCon actually started. But it's been amazing. And I'm here at the show floor sharing the internet with 12,000 people. So 12,500, they said approximately, which is the largest KubeCon so far. And I'm just having a great time here.
That's awesome. Well, here at Veeam, we want to know where you are tuning in from. So be sure to put that in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. But first things first, before we get into KubeCon, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Veeam on 2025. It is coming up in the few short weeks. I know I'm getting ready for it. I know Michael and Julia are getting ready for it as well. So let's get a little preview of what you can expect at Veeam on.
Are you ready for the ultimate data protection event of the year? Because VeeamON is back, bigger, bolder, and better than ever. VeeamON 2025 is approaching fast, April 21st through 23rd, taking place in beautiful San Diego, California. This is where IT professionals, cloud experts, and business leaders from around the world come together to shape the future of data protection, cyber resilience, and IT innovation. And let's not forget, VeeamON isn't just about learning. It's about connecting, celebrating, and having an unforgettable experience. Whether you're joining us in person or virtually, you don't want to miss it. Here are the top 3 reasons you should attend in person. Number 1, breaking news. Be the first to hear about latest product updates with live demonstrations on the main stage. Number 2, test your skills. Do you consider yourself to be a Veeam expert? Face off against other Veeam gurus and lab wars for a chance to win a cash prize. And number 3, it's all about community. VeeamON is an opportunity to connect and network with your peers. Plus, let's not forget about that legendary VeeamON celebration. Registration is now open and the session agenda is available at veeamon.com. We'll see you in San Diego.
Wow, you definitely don't want to miss this Veeam on. We're going to San Diego. Can you believe it? Be sure to join us in person or online, and be sure to check the chat for a link to register. So let's get started. KubeCon, right? You might be wondering, what KubeCon is. So Julia, why don't you give us an overview about what KubeCon is, where it's at? You said there's 12,000 people there. Give us a little bit more details about the event.
So KubeCon is the cloud native conference, Kubernetes and cloud native, and it usually happens twice a year, once in Europe and once in the US. This year in Europe is going to be in London, and then in the US around November, it's going to be in Atlanta. And it's just people passionate about cloud native technology, DevOps, and that work on open source projects from the CNCF and that want to share knowledge and talk about technology. There are a lot of sponsors as well that use these technologies and they come here, they sponsor the conference and they want to share about their tools and their services. But I think the best part about KubeCon is the community. There is a large community of people passionate about sharing knowledge and wanting to help others ramp up and improve their posture their cloud practice.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I love community. That's one of the best parts about going to any type of event is really just connecting with people who you have similar interests with, you work with the same technologies, and learning from them, right? So KubeCon, there's probably some major themes that they're talking about at the event, some happenings happening in the KubeCon world, right? So Michael, what are some of the major themes that they're talking about?
So obviously we talk about Kubernetes quite a lot. And Kubernetes is just another platform, right? It's made up of compute, storage, and networking, same as any other virtualization platform or any cloud-based workload and all of that stuff. So I think we're now into the 11th year of Kubernetes, but the CNCF announced that they're now hitting the 10-year, and that's a foundation. And if anyone's seen the CNCF landscape, you've seen this vending machine of all these weird and wonderful products and projects that make up this whole ecosystem. And so they hit the 10-year mark, and that can be different databases, different storage, it could be different applications, it could be GitOps, and all this terminology, Kirsten, that we're probably not familiar with in our virtualization world. But ultimately, it's still very much the same, but probably a more akin to the software developer, because it's getting that infrastructure closer to the infrastructure closer to the app dev people that are creating stuff that we're using on a daily basis. Like any website that you've been to today, anyone anywhere is probably using some sort of cloud native project or at least that platform. So with that said, obviously we're protecting data on and around that Kubernetes cluster. So one of the biggest things that I've been hearing, I'm not going to talk about AI straight away. I think we should get into that in a bit. But ultimately, seeing this new phenomenon around, so Kubernetes is based on container orchestration. How do we run container-based images and workloads in a more scale-out cloud-native aspect? But what we're also seeing with the hypervisor Hunger Games is virtual machines landing on this same platform, this same compute storage network platform known as Kubernetes. And now we're running VMs and containers next to each other. Generally speaking, most of our audience, they're going to be focused on virtual machines, probably in some sort of hypervisor on-prem. And there's certain news that is forcing you to look around and look at other options. So, and that data becomes massively important. We all know that. And we protect that Kubernetes workload, whether it be a container or whether it be a virtual machine. And the important part of that is that that's just a virtual machine, the same as it sits on VMware, Hyper-V, Nutanix, cloud-based VMs, etc. And they generally run applications, databases that we know and see on a daily basis, Postgres, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, exactly the same databases that we have out there in the wild today in all of those other platforms. So that's been a big push and a big conversation starter for us. And I think the important part is that we've got a story to tell around protecting that workload alongside the containerization. And you're seeing like alliance partners like Red Hat, they have something called OpenShift virtualization, which is their flavor of Kubernetes, and they can run VMs alongside their container. And it's probably the most advanced enterprise solution when it comes to protecting or provisioning and hosting your workloads all under one roof. Then you've got SUSE. Again, both of these massive operating system companies are venturing into this more of a platform play, and they have SUSE virtualization. Also, it was known as SUSE Harvester before. But yeah, that's a big area of conversation, at least for us. I've touched on a few different things in there, things like databases. So we're seeing the same databases. Again, they need protecting. They need protecting in an application consistent way. And then on top of that, the AI trend. And instead of thinking about protecting things like the model, think about what that application looks like and consider AI and AI pipelines, vector databases, RAGs, etc. They need protecting because you've probably invested a lot of compute power into that. And that then needs protecting from that perspective. A lot in there, Kirsten, I know, but hopefully there's a lot of synergies with what you already know from a virtualization perspective. my biggest thing is about how do we help our customers on that journey to understanding what else is out there and where they could potentially modernize their virtualization, modernize their applications, and all of that stuff.
Wow.
And if I may add also, one trend that I've been seeing is that with VMware's acquisition by Broadcom, they are talking a lot about alternatives to VMware, where companies can move their workloads. And this is where also we come in. We can help companies move their workloads to another platform. So it's all an ecosystem working together. So companies can choose to stay there at VMware, but those that want to choose to move to Kubernetes or virtual machines on Kubernetes and they want to move their workloads, Veeam can help with that.
Wow, yeah, that is a lot of information. I had no idea that, call me a novice, call me a beginner. I had no idea you could run virtual machines on Kubernetes. So what would be some of the use cases for running VMs on Kubernetes? Is it just because of the hypervisor Hunger Games, or do they perform better on Kubernetes, or what would you say?
Yeah, so I think one absolute benefit is especially if you've containerized the web front end, the application, which is, I'm not going to say it's relatively easy. It's easier than something like a massive terabyte scale database. And DBAs and other owners of that application and that database might actually be afraid of moving that into going all in on containerization, going all in on Kubernetes. Whereas if you tell them that we can move the database VM into Kubernetes, they might be a little bit like, they might actually see the benefit of that. And what that overall benefit is to the infrastructure, to the business, is that, well, now my database is on exactly the same hardware as my containerization. So the latency between the two aren't two separate platforms anymore. They can take advantage of speed. Equally, Kubernetes is Kubernetes running on-prem, Kubernetes running in a data center, Kubernetes running in Amazon EKS or AKS or OpenShift, anywhere. It's just Kubernetes. And we talk about portability a lot from a Veeam perspective, but Kubernetes is really the portability engine, because if you're running something in Kubernetes here, you can run it over there quite simply. So that's a real big use case for running those applications alongside the applications is performance, speed, and then overall you're not having to dip out of management consoles to look after those. So yeah, that's probably the biggest feature.
Awesome. And yeah, we love good performance and speed, that's for sure. And portability, I mean, being able to move data seamlessly is a great thing to be able to do. So speaking of that, I have the map ready for us. So let's see where everybody is tuning in from. In North America, we have California. Hello. In Europe, going all the way over to Europe, we're going to London. Thanks for joining us. That's where Michael and Julia are. Feel free to say hi if you see them. Then we also have France joining us. Thank you. In South America, we have Chile. Welcome. If we go on to the other side of the pond, we have Senegal in Africa. And then in the Asia Pacific region, we have India, Pakistan, and Hong Kong, but from Taiwan. Thank you guys all for tuning in today. Appreciate you guys. And for anybody joining us later on in the chat, be sure to keep those entries coming. Awesome. So, you spoke a little bit about, Gen AI. AI is one of those hot topics today. It's been a hot topic now for a couple years. And, we are constantly using AI every day, right? For our work, for our school, whatever we want to use it for. So how would you say, Kubernetes is utilizing Gen AI, and what are some positive things that can come out of using Gen AI and Kubernetes together?
So I think for me, at least, and hearing some of the talks, it's just somewhere to run the workload, and you've got to think about who is who and what the outcome is from an AI perspective, who needs that. And when you think about like and the terminology AI pipelines is how can we use our data against some of these already trained models, massive trained models, to be able to interact with our data, be it a chatbot or be able to actually glean information out of that. And ultimately, it's just another application that lives somewhere. Now, the benefit of running that on Kubernetes is that all of our nodes can have GPUs, they can have the performance. Equally, they can be scaled up, scaled down. So if you think about from a VMware, and I'll use VMware, but actually any hypervisor is the same, is for you to go and procure a new server, a Dell server, HPE server, whatnot. Like that takes a while to go and spin that up and get that in to bolster your ESXi environment, your vSphere environment, your Hyper-V estate. In Kubernetes, we don't necessarily have that because Kubernetes can run on virtual machines, they can run in cloud, they can run on-prem, they can equally leverage a bit of everything as well. So there's a lot of benefits to Kubernetes from that perspective, but then the ability to burst workloads into Kubernetes, and this goes outside of the AI realm as well. But when you're looking at, say, a database, a vector database, so a vector database being the building blocks of a RAG, and a RAG is where you can embed or chunk up your own data. So you understand what that data is, you feed that into your embedding model, and then that gets stored in this database. And for us, we just see it as potentially just a Postgres database with a PG vector extension. And I'm using them as the example. Do the same in Mongo. You can use it in other places. But ultimately, being able to protect that workload, that database, it's going to have cost you money to run that process and embed that data, vectorize that data, and then use that data. And that becomes potentially, like you say, Kirsten, that's a mission critical app that we're using every day, be it for work or school or anywhere, right? Like that's probably the benefit to that, is that we can run it anywhere and we can quickly spin up, scale out what that needs to look like.
And also, like we said, Gen AI, I think, is the biggest trend already for a few years. And they're building everything on top of Gen AI. So observability tools are using Gen AI. Security tools are using Gen AI as well to improve, the tools and how they can monitor and how they can get alerts if there is something wrong in the environment. Also, Istio announced Gen AI with Service Mesh. So Gen AI is present everywhere. It's not just, Gen AI itself, it's Gen AI plus something else, and it's everywhere. We're seeing all the talks are mentioning Gen AI somehow. Everyone's talking about it. So it's I think, the biggest trend ever.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. What really kind of rung in my head, right, is the fact that when you use Kubernetes, you can burst it and really scale up to meet that demand. So when you think about even running, AI systems on Kubernetes and you're wanting to get those answers, how much faster you can get those answers when it's bursting up like that. So very interesting stuff. Julia, you mentioned security, right? So Kubernetes, security is top of mind. What are some tips that you might have learned at the event to make sure that you can keep your Kubernetes containers secure and safe from, cyber attacks?
Yeah, I mean, having our back and making sure that only the right people have access to, the clusters, the namespace. You don't want to give everyone access to all the administrators. Only the necessary people need to have access, because that's where all your compute is running. So that's one of the tips. There are a lot of things, and usually what's going on with Kubernetes is not the same with virtual machines. So you can't think, oh, I'm just moving my workloads to Kubernetes and I'm not going to apply the same security things on Kubernetes. No, you need people that understand Kubernetes, because it can become dangerous, and there are attacks on Kubernetes clusters as well. So you need to protect those and back up your data on Kubernetes. all of that as well is important to think about.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we did get a question from Mohammed, which asked about how Kubernetes can be more effective and more secure and compared to some other hypervisors. And I think that one thing that we need to definitely consider is we need to make sure that depending on, the container, depending on the virtual machine, we are putting proper security protocols in place. And those might be different. So you may need to make sure you do your research, you learn a little along the way to make sure your environment's secure, right? So thinking about someone who might not be super familiar with Kubernetes, why should somebody adopt Kubernetes, or how would they get started even learning about how to adopt Kubernetes?
Yeah, so if they want to start, I would say go on the CNCF Slack or the Kubernetes Slack. There are two Slacks for those, and talk to people. I think this is the best way, even before starting to use the tool, to use the container orchestrator, because you can ask questions and have a sense of direction where to go. Because when you jump into using Kubernetes directly, it can be overwhelming. It's a very robust tool, and reading the documentation, a lot of times you're not going to understand how it works. So go talk to people. And as I said, the community here is amazing. Everyone wants to help other people get started. Also, if you want to contribute to projects around Kubernetes or even Kubernetes per se, there are a lot of opportunities to contribute to the project, and by contributing you learn more about the project. So I would say go on Slack and message people. There are channels for first timers, people that are just getting started, and then get hands-on with the project and start building our applications on top of Kubernetes.
So I would add to that. I think Julia's spot on. I think a lot of the people on the call, listening in, watching the recording, whatever, are going to come from that virtualization background, and exactly where I came from, and managed to learn some of this stuff, because ultimately it's just another platform. So I would say Google that CNCF landscape. It's going to be massively overwhelming to begin with, but start at the bottom, and then you can start to work up about the familiarity around what storage options do I have? How can I get hands-on with some of this stuff using things like Kind, which is Kubernetes in Docker? Again, you might need to go back on yourself. You're not just going to dive into Kubernetes. You're going to have to understand a bit more about containerization and what that actually means. Potentially, like if you've got a good understanding of Linux as well, is going to get you around that it's going to get you a good head start. But for me, it was about getting hands-on, but it was about that similarity. It was about familiarity of what I knew from a virtualization point of view, and then that enabled me to go and explore some of this. I keep calling it the vending machine of cloud native, because there's so many options and so many open source projects and then commercial products on top of that allow you to just play with storage or just play with networking, and just then get into the compute areas and then databases and everything a lot like that. So as much as it's overwhelming, take a step back, look at Linux, Docker, or containerization, and then get into Kubernetes, get hands-on, and start understanding what that looks like.
Cool. Yeah, it does seem like the key here is start small and grow and get hands-on. I definitely am more of a hands-on learner myself. I need to start using my hands and getting dirty with it so we can learn a little bit more, right? So we do have the map again before we go. So let's check out the map real quick. We have Colorado joining us. Thanks for tuning in, as well as down in South America, we have Brazil. Welcome. And then if we go over, we have Turkey. So thank you guys all for tuning in today. I appreciate you joining us. So before we go, I just want to ask any final thoughts about KubeCon, right? So Michael, Julia, who wants to go first?
I can go first. I would like to say that KubeCon is a very different conference. I would recommend everyone to come, at least once in their career. It's great to meet people, and if your company can't send you, the CNCF has scholarships for that as well. You can apply for scholarships. Also, they have online sessions. You can watch the recordings after. I think there is so much knowledge here at KubeCon that you can learn a lot from the conference and from other people that are attending the conference.
So I think my take is I'm seeing more and more. I've been coming to these for a few years. The uptake of infrastructure admins, vSphere admins that have come into this world has been growing and growing each year. I think that'll continue to grow. I think the other thing that I liken it to is the Exchange admin. And if you remember speaking to Exchange admins that were fixed on, no, I know Exchange, I don't want to know Microsoft 365, I don't want to know Entra ID, and they just wanted to be the blacksmith of Exchange. And there's fewer Exchange admins out there in the world because M365 just made life easier for the business. I honestly believe that Kubernetes is just another platform that you're either gonna protect it and have it and understand it, or someone else's, the app dev team, the new DevOps team, the platform engineering team will. And then suddenly you're the legacy team that aren't looking after that stuff anymore. And how many Exchange admins do you know? There you go.
I mean, I might know one, but I don't know how many, if that's a
They
lot.
probably earn a fortune, to be fair.
Well, awesome, guys. Thank you guys for, giving us that overview of the event. Next Thursday, we have our Veeam 100 session around Veeam Data Cloud Vault and how you can protect it against ransomware and disasters. So you don't want to miss that one. Michael, Julia, thank you guys so much for joining me today.
And thanks for having us, Kirsten.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm happy to have you guys anytime. Definitely come on back on. And thanks to all the audience for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.